Hi, my name is Linda Neller, and this is my presentation for Module 14, the case study. First of all, to review the facts in this case, James is a 15-year-old junior high school student who's been in some trouble, and he brought some brass knuckles to school. He ends up giving the brass knuckles to David when he's called to the office to talk to the assistant principal after having excessive tardies. He admits to giving those brass knuckles to David to hold for him and threatening him if he did not hold on to them. Both boys ended up being arrested by the school police officer for violating federal law because they had weapons and they had a zero tolerance policy in their district. Assistant Principal Inman refused to expel David due to the district's due to his past behavior, that he's never been in trouble. He's an A student. He is involved in the school band. He's talented. He's never been in trouble. So Principal Inman is refusing to expel him based on the fact he was bullied into holding on to those weapons, and he would not have chosen to have a weapon at school. The director of secondary education has told Inman that he will have no choice but to write an official reprimand if he doesn't fill out the expulsion papers. The legal and ethical issues in this case. First of all, weapons in schools. The Gun-Free Schools Act of 1994 stated that schools were to adopt a zero tolerance policy for weapons found on school grounds of a K-12 school. Violators are to be expelled, but the policy can be challenged and reversed upon review. It's also a public school's duty to make sure students are safe, and it is the duty of an educational leader to evaluate and communicate about and advocate for ethical and legal decisions within the school. To synthesize this in one sentence, Richard Inman was demonstrating ethical, moral, fair behavior when he decided not to expel David from school after being bullied into holding James' weapon. The facts. What I know are that the people involved are Richard Inman, the assistant principal, James, the 15-year-old who brought the weapon to school, David, who is the student who was bullied into holding on to the weapon. James's fifth period teacher is involved because she witnessed the exchange and called and told the assistant principal that James had given David something. She wasn't sure what. And then the school police officer was also involved. Everyone involved in this case study were male, except for the teacher was a female. The place had happened in a suburban area that had students bused from the south side, which sounds like the south side is a rough neighborhood. This is in a public junior high school. Unknown. What I don't know, I didn't see anything about the principal in the school or the superintendent or counselor or any other witnesses that may have seen what happened. In terms of the place, it didn't state what state the junior high school is located in, which that certain state could have a law against weapons in school that might be different. It still wouldn't be tolerated, but I know a couple states, they would also revoke a student's driver's license if they had a weapon in school. So it just depends where they were located, what the consequence if there might be a different consequence. The program, what I would like to know is whether anyone has asked for an exemption in this case be made for David, because he is actually a victim here. In reviewing the information, we know that David was arrested and charged unfairly. Expelling David would be traumatic for both David and his family. James has made a breakthrough in admitting his guilt. Both boys could possibly end up dropping out of school, depending on the outcome of the expulsion decision. I'd like to know if the assistant principal Inman has collaborated with anyone else, any other district administration on this. Has he talked to the principal or the superintendent? Has he tried to advocate for the boys in this case? And I'd like to know if he's gathered any information from witnesses or tried to advocate for them in any way. In evaluating the options, some of the options that could take place if he does not take any action, then Inman could be written up by the Director of Secondary Education. At that time, Inman could present any documentation he's gathered during an investigation of the situation. Assistant Principal Inman should model ethical behaviors and do what he thinks is best for both of these students involved. And to continue those options, Assistant Principal Inman could stand up for both David and James and advocate for both boys based on fair ethical behavior. And to advocate for them both would be an ethical decision. He could also just decide to advocate for David since he was a victim, but I think he really has a relationship with James and he really cares what happens to James. And James has been making a breakthrough. So he could ask for an exemption for David based on the data that he gathers. And he could ask for the shortest time served for James based on the fact that he has improved his grades. He's not been in a fight for months, and he actually admitted to his wrongdoing, which was a breakthrough for him. What I think would be the best option would be for Inman to ask the superintendent to allow him to investigate further by talking to witnesses and gathering information about the boys in the incident. He could then present that and advocate for both boys in that way. In this way, he would be modeling fair and ethical behavior by advocating for both boys based on what is both legal and ethical in the case.